So I know I haven't uploaded it in a while. The explanation will probably be in the pinned comments or not. Just know that I should be back for good now. Before we get into these crazy spoilers provided by Miyamura, I'm gonna quickly and briefly recap the last chapter since there was a magazine break, and this is just to get into the JJK mood. So we learned that Gojo can essentially amplify his punches by activating blue in conjunction. They give a cool explanation saying it's like he's landing critical hits every time, which is also why Jogo expressed that Gojo's punches aren't just cursed energy infused, but there's something else to it, and now we know that it's blue. Then the scrapping between Gojo and Sukuna had begun, and we saw Gojo use blue multiple times to try and take down Sukuna. He even used it to amplify his speed, creating after images, which is pretty sick, maybe an homage to what Killua did in Hunter x Hunter. Then we get new details of Maharaga's adaptation ability. So when Sukuna uses domain amplification, the wheel gets shadowed, emphasizing that the adaptation process is paused or interrupted, which makes sense considering it was stated that you can't use your innate technique at the same time domain amp is active. But Gojo reveals that you need 4 spins total in order to adapt to my infinity. Now the wheel had already spun once, so there's a countdown of allegedly 3 more spins to go. However, Gojo states that he'll kill Sukuna before he can even get 3 spins for the wheel, and that's basically where the chapter ended off. Moving forward to this week's spoilers, chapter 232 opens up with Maharaga's wheel turning the second spin. Just 2 more spins left for Gojo's infinity to get adapted. Everyone screams Gojo to hurry up. So it looks like they've been still going at it in Shinjuku, and there's a specific panel where Gojo enhances his hands with cursed energy, punches a pillar that Sukuna is heading to, though Sukuna easily recoups. But what Gojo was actually doing was amplifying his blue technique with so much cursed energy to now use a new application of blue. He wraps his hands together and creates quote-unquote blue orbs all around Sukuna, which moves and destroys everything around. I could be getting this wrong, but thanks to the anime, which we know Gege worked closely on, season 2 showed us that when Gojo put maximum cursed energy into his blue, it creates a huge orb that moves around and destroys everything in the vicinity. So I think it's similar to what Gojo's doing here, you know, amplifying the power so much to the point where he creates multiple individual magnetic fields confined within orbs, like a Rasengan from Naruto, I guess. With the orbs pressuring and distracting Sukuna, Gojo moves to his blind spot and lands a kick on him. However, this sequence leads the wheel to turn the 3rd time in this battle, meaning Sukuna only needs 1 spin left in order for Maharaga to adapt to infinity. Yuji asks, how does the wheel adapt to a cursed technique? Does it adapt after taking some time or by taking the attacks twice? Kusakabe responds, well, Gojo is only using his blue technique so far, and Kashima says, whichever option could be possible. Alright, so I'm glad they're kind of speculating about this, since it was also a thought that I'm sure all of us had when reading the last chapter. You know, just what are the exact conditions or the amount of hits needed in order for the wheel to spin once. And because the leaks only provide brief translation, we'll have to wait until the full translations come out in order to understand it better. Going back into the battle though, it seems like Gojo had kicked Sukuna into a building, and Gojo plans to take Sukuna by surprise by giving him the impression that he will only use blue. But then he suddenly attacks at point blank range with curse technique reversal red. Although Gojo's red doesn't deal much damage because Sukuna used domain amplification just in time, so that also means the wheel turned dark as the adaptation process is paused. But Sukuna couldn't fully neutralize red because it's also limitless enhanced, so different from blue. And he taunts Gojo saying being sloppy and hesitating because your moves were red. But just then, Sukuna gets hit with Gojo's red from behind in the next instance, which was shot before as it came back after circling the entire building. So that's really cool how Gojo secretly made his attack to work twice. I assume it's Gojo himself controlling the red to intentionally circle back here, because we did kind of see him control blue in season 2 and earlier in this chapter by like moving his arms and hands. And if you look closely before it shows the panel of red hitting Sukuna, Gojo does move his hands and arms in this panel, which was probably when he circled the red, or not. Again, the full translations will clear things up, but Gojo doesn't let Sukuna breathe, as right after the red, he combos by punching Sukuna with Black Flash, a special jujutsu attack that we haven't seen since the Shibuya arc. And this makes Sukuna's eyes turn white. Everyone watching on the broadcast view is shocked. However, even with Sukuna knocked out, Maharaga's wheel drops on the ground and it suddenly turns the fourth and final spin, leading Gojo to be trapped and grabbed by Maharaga in the shadows. Yuten Yuji screams, "Sensei," as the chapter ends with Maharaga being fully adapted to his infinity now and heavily slashes Gojo in the chest. Man, Jujutsu Kaisen just keeps staying peak. Like, the breaks haven't stopped in a long time, but now it looks like we're at the climax of this fight with Maharaga, Sukuna's trump card, finally being adapted to his infinity. Now, there was 4 different translations in the last chapter, viz. TCB, OP scans, and Shiba's, where they were implying that Maharaga would adapt to either Gojo's infinity barrier only or his entire limitless technique, because, you know, if Gojo does end up getting back on his feet and heals the slash with RCT in the next chapter, no doubt would he just try to fire a red or purple to instantly wipe Maharaga, right? So what if, even though Maharaga adapts to specific phenomenon, considering it adapted to infinity here as Gojo's technique brings infinity to reality, then if and when red, blue, and hollow purple gets unleashed, what if, hypothetically, they get adapted as well, because at the end of the day, they are just extension attacks that still bring the concept or phenomenon of infinity into reality. Maybe this will be a good way for the students to come in the fight now, because to beat Maharaga, you essentially have to kill it with a new ability before it can finish adapting to the previous one, as seen by Sukuna using his domain's sure hit and then instantly pulling the flame arrow right away. Or maybe Gojo can still take care of this himself. Maybe he still has some hidden things in his arsenal. Let me know what you guys think, as of course I'm gonna go way more in depth with this chapter for my review video coming out sometime this weekend, so look forward to that. And yeah, with all that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.